The small suburban town of Greenfield was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone. It was picturesque and quiet, but like any town, it had its secrets. Among the residents were Rachel and her husband, Mark, a couple who seemed perfect on the outside. Rachel was vivacious and outgoing, always the center of attention at gatherings. Mark, on the other hand, was a steady and dependable man who worked long hours as an architect to provide for their family. Rachel's younger sister, Emily, lived just a few blocks away with her husband, Chris. Emily was the quieter of the two sisters, a schoolteacher who found joy in simple things like tending her garden or baking on the weekends. Chris was a firefighter, known for his calm demeanor and strength under pressure. To anyone looking in, both couples appeared happy in their own ways. It started with a glance. At a summer barbecue in Emily's backyard, Rachel caught Chris's eye across the crowd. There was nothing unusual at first, just a shared laugh over an inside joke. But as the weeks went on, those shared moments became more frequent. Rachel began visiting Emily more often, under the pretense of helping her sister around the house or dropping off baked goods. When Emily was at work or out running errands, Rachel and Chris would find themselves alone. The initial conversations were harmless, but over time, the boundaries blurred. A touch on the shoulder lingered too long. A compliment carried an undertone that neither dared to acknowledge. One rainy afternoon, as Rachel sat on the couch in Chris and Emily's living room, the tension between them reached its peak. Chris hesitated for only a moment before closing the distance. That kiss would mark the beginning of an affair that would shatter their lives. For months, they carried on in secret. They stole moments during family gatherings, exchanged furtive texts, and met in out-of-town motels. Neither could bring themselves to end it, even as the guilt gnawed at them. Rachel convinced herself that Mark's long work hours had left her lonely, while Chris rationalized his actions by blaming the growing distance between him and Emily. But secrets in a small town are rarely kept for long. Emily began to notice Rachel's visits becoming more frequent, the lingering glances between her husband and sister, the hushed conversations that ended when she entered the room. One evening, while cleaning the house, Emily stumbled upon Rachel's scarf in their bedroom, an item that had no reason to be there. Her suspicions were confirmed when she checked Chris's phone and found a string of messages between him and Rachel. The texts were damning, filled with declarations of love and plans to meet. Emily's world crumbled as she pieced together the betrayal. That night, Emily confronted Chris. Her voice cracked with emotion as she demanded the truth. Chris, unable to lie any longer, confessed everything. When Emily called Rachel to confront her, the conversation devolved into a screaming match. Rachel tried to apologize, but her words rang hollow. Mark found out soon after. When Emily called him in tears, he was blindsided. The man who had built a life with Rachel never imagined she could betray him so deeply. Mark confronted Rachel with quiet anger, packing his bags and leaving the house before she could explain. The fallout was devastating. Emily filed for divorce, unable to forgive Chris despite his pleas. Rachel was left alone, shunned by both her husband and sister. Her once bright personality dimmed, overshadowed by the shame of her actions. Mark moved to a different city, seeking a fresh start, while Emily focused on rebuilding her life, leaning on friends and therapy to heal. As for Chris, he found himself estranged from both his wife and his former lover, haunted by the choices that had cost him everything. In the quiet of their separate lives, Rachel and Chris often thought about the moments that had led them to ruin. They had pursued fleeting passion at the expense of trust, family, and love, leaving behind nothing but broken hearts and shattered bonds. Some betrayals, they learned too late, can never be undone.